Many introductory biology courses start with a discussion about what it means to be alive. It turns out that while we can intuitively identify living versus non-living things, it is difficult to come up with a simple definition of life. Instead, biologists ask, what can living things do that non-living things cannot do? And they have come up with a list of 7 or 8 characteristics that operate as a functional definition of life. Surprising to many human students, the ability to move is not on the list. Well, water and fire move, but they are not alive. And some organisms are stationary, rooted in the ground, or adhered to rocks or other surfaces. So we can't say that living things move and non-living things cannot. So it's not on the list. But I would argue that life demands movement, and that all life forms are engaging in movement even if it is not visible to the eye. There are many possible examples, but I will highlight just 2. All organisms move materials into, out of, and within their bodies and cells, and they also move organisms during cell division to distribute DNA to daughter cells. And even stationary organisms can be observed to move on a macro level. Plants turn their leaves or flowers toward the sun, and the leaves of a Venus flytrap snap quickly shut when they detect an insect. Organisms are in tune with the rhythms and cycles of the natural world and depend on the movement of the non-living environment. The cycle of day and night as the Earth turns, the changing of seasons as the Earth orbits the sun, convection currents in the air and bodies of water, the flowing of streams. Organisms respond to these cues. Life is adapted to the rhythms of the Earth. The living and non-living are united by movement. Many animals and microorganisms locomote, or move their bodies in space to acquire food, to escape from danger, to reproduce, to seek shelter, and more. And as human animals, our bodies are built to move. For many of us, human innovation has decreased the amount of physical work needed to survive. We are more sedentary, and it has become harder to maintain healthy bones, muscles, and minds. And so we exercise. I remember being at a park as a young adult at a time when children were not a part of my life, and watching a small child run in fast, large circles in the grass, falling down and getting up again and continuing to run some more, and for a really long time. And I wondered, where did the kid get the energy? At 22, I didn't have that kind of energy. So I've been thinking about how my personal relationship to movement has changed over the course of my life. My experience may be similar to yours or different. I was an active kid, spending lots of time outside and riding my bike all over the neighborhood. I loved to do cartwheels, and I remember doing 31 cartwheels during one recess period at school. That's probably why my teacher asked my mom to send me to school with shorts under my dress, because all girls wore dresses to school at that time, right? As a teenager, I spent a lot of time sitting on the couch reading, but I also remained active, riding my bike, doing cartwheels and flips in the front yard, ice skating and sledding in the winter. In college, I took a PE class every semester. Swimming, tennis, and even handball, which I enjoyed a lot. The speed, the sweat, the work, the feel of the ball in my hand. I actually still have my handball gloves. I swam regularly, played tennis occasionally, and joined a folk dancing group in my 20s. I really enjoyed moving. In my 30s and 40s, with the responsibilities of parenting and life and work, life got a lot busier. Managing a household and raising children kept me active, but it became more difficult to exercise regularly, and after a frozen shoulder and other aches and pains, I learned to pay more attention to the needs of my body. Then I started teaching and spent 15 years in a demanding and pretty sedentary job. When I retired, I foolishly imagined that I could easily resume a more active lifestyle with no ramp up. Well, I soon realized that I was actually 15 years older. Tendinitis became a familiar friend, or should I say enemy, maybe? Physical therapy helped me regain strength, and I actually enjoyed doing my PT exercises. But then I developed an exercise-induced heart arrhythmia and a balance problem, and along the way I stopped doing my strength exercises. The arrhythmia is under control, and I more or less manage the balance problem with eye exercises and standing on a foam block with my eyes closed. To practice the balancing part, right? These days, my main form of exercise is walking, although I don't always walk in a straight line, and I haven't given up on the idea of resuming a strengthening program. I enjoy walking in and of itself, but it is also my go-to stress reliever and a great time to think and just be in the world. I live near UUCR, just a couple blocks away, and I have two favorite places to visit in the neighborhood when I walk. One is the steep hill on Bell Avenue, leading up from Nelson Street to the Manatee Street Circle. And I totally enjoy the burn in my thighs and the feel of my muscles working hard on that hill. My other favorite place is the trail along Watts Branch behind Woodley Gardens Park. Walking there this week, I enjoyed moving through the woods, listening to the stream, feeling the gentle breeze on my face, and hearing the cicadas in the trees. I felt at one with the world. We were all moving, stream, wind, cicadas, and me, the living and the physical world around us.
So, motion is pretty important for how we might store up sunshine. Dancing can bring joy. Exercise of whatever sort works for us is critical for our well-being, and we can even use it as a calming, meditative practice. But even the tiniest of motions can have a huge impact on how we feel and how we mesh as a group. What about faces? A commonly repeated hypothesis in the pop sci media that I've seen is that smiling itself can lift our mood. I think there's some support for it, but in any case, anecdotally, it has seemed true to me. When I started therapy some years back, a big part of the early work was in learning not just how to discuss and to label each emotion, but how to even express them. My face was a stiff, motionless mask, and I had long developed the habit of holding it as absolutely still as I could, giving nothing away, though I think the end result was a perpetual state of pretty angry. Learning to show what I was feeling was a surprisingly hard process. I guess hiding it was a protective habit, and feeling safe enough to let things unfreeze was a tall order. It's a bit silly, but I remember even practicing in front of a mirror how to put expression back on my face. The muscles and intuition of it seemed atrophied with disuse. I remember being nervous about each incremental change and how I would let my body move to show what was inside. And of being surprised at how receptive people were to it. How weird. I've gotten gradually better at it, and it's really changed things a lot. I think it has been a key part of moving life from a constant gray to a world of color. And it really does open up the experience of the world to both let yourself move and to be moved by things. I guess that's maybe obvious, but it wasn't to me. And it's easy for me to forget and to retreat into a shell. The interesting thing, too, is that suppressing the expression of an emotion and the experience of it is linked in ways, much like the smile example. It's hard to truly hold your face and body still when rocked by grief or joy or rage, unless you find a way to push the feelings away themselves. And then there's also the social aspects of hiding your body's cues. These tiny little motions, or energetically expansive ones in some of our cases, are a huge part of how we connect, understand each other, and help each other out. Now, whether suppressing expression of a feeling directly stops the experience of it has inconsistent evidence, but I have noticed there's sort of a worst of both worlds effect. The hiding of negative emotions does little to end the actual internal unpleasantness of them, but it does prevent others from realizing our distress and offering us aid. It's seeing the wince on someone's face when they bend over to know that they could use a massage, or the hurt in their eyes to know that our words were clumsy, or the tears of a child to know they need comfort and some ice cream. But perhaps even more tragic, holding your body and face back from showing happiness seems to greatly dampen it. When we hear an amazing song that we love, or see someone that makes us happy, and we don't let ourselves show it, it quickly fades and mutes the potential. And when we're gathered in our own winter caves, so to speak, and listening to each other's stories and sharing in each other's experiences, if we remain just flat and expressionless, then though individually it may spark some internal joy, it would quickly smother and die off if we do not let it breathe. The smiles and jubilant motions of appreciation are critical for that way joy can spread between us and grow all the brighter. It's this many-directional feedback loop going on between emotions, the motion they bring about, and the effects this has on each of us. It lets the stories bring a whole cave to wonderful life, instead of leaving each mouse experiencing the winter in isolation. And I think it's part of what makes coming here each week feel so great to me. People here are so genuine and expressive and willing to share so much of themselves. Also, many of you all give some glorious hugs, speaking of motion. It's a huge contrast from my usual workaday life. The good, the bad, the complex. People are eager to show what they're feeling and to get fellowship and support.